Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Megabubfish. Wow, that was a terrible intro. And I just figured I would want to talk today about something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And if you've seen any of my previous videos, you'll know this is my Bunch of Squares server that you see in the background here. And there have been a lot of crazy shenanigans that have happened over the past few months on this server. But it's kind of feeling as if things are rather winding down. People aren't playing on it as much. It's not so busy anymore. And a lot of projects are just kind of either stagnating or, nearing completion. So, what I wanted to talk about with you guys today is the process of starting a new world. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't tend to put a lot of thought into. Most of the time, it's as simple as, fire up new world. Just go ahead and make it from scratch. That makes sense, right? Well, when you're doing something with multiplayer, you want to put a little bit more effort into it than that. And on top of that, it might be nice to know what you're jumping into with a brand new survival world. So, I'm going to take you through a couple of these steps in my kind of basic process here. And I will show you what you should be looking for, what you shouldn't be looking for, and what you'll want to do when you are creating a new world for Minecraft. So for me, the first step is always to go to chunkbase.com. I will have the link down in the description below. And basically what their Biome Finder app allows you to do, it allows you to go into a world before you ever actually step foot in it. And it's a really nice tool to kind of just get a glimpse at what the world is going to look like. Now, this is the world that I was just on, the Bunch of Squares server, and this is where I was, up here in the mountains. And I think about that space right there was mine. And this kind of gives you a sense of the scale of this world. You can see about 6,000 blocks out. I think you can zoom it out further, but it gets a little blurry, and I'm already not sure how this is going to show up on video, so we're going to stick with it at about this size. Everybody else is kind of spread over this island and across a couple of the other islands in the area, which is kind of cool. We get a really nice variety, and we have a great variety of biomes. So, what am I looking for when I create a new world? Well, this one was fantastic. This one was amazing because you have just this really nice story set up by these islands here, and choosing this island in particular, there's all sorts of things going on there. You have easy access to a lot of resources in the area. No other biomes are too terribly far away, the exception of the snowy biomes. You kind of get this nice balance. You also have a mycelium island not too far off the shore. So you have a really good mix of options to build on and with as far as resources are concerned. So let's take a look at what a random world will look like. Now, right out of the gate here, you're going to notice a few things. You have a lot of swamps floating around here, and as you can see on the bottom of my screen, whenever I pan over something, it will tell you exactly what the biome is. Now, this world is one that I would not start on, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, you don't have easy access to an ocean. Oceans are early game mobility for a lot of people, and basically this deprives you of a lot of easy early access to resources. Plus, if you're coming down to around origin here, 0, where you're going to be spawning in roughly this circumference, you're not seeing a whole lot of variety in your biomes. You're going to want to look for a few things that are reasonably close to this starting location. Obviously, I've mentioned the oceans. Something else you're going to want to look forward to is desert, because you're going to want sand for glass, and late game you're going to want concrete and stuff like that out of that. And if you look here, we do have a small desert, but that's going to get depleted fairly early on. And the closest one beyond that is about 1,000 blocks out, which isn't bad. And you also have access to the jungle. Now that's good. You've got the jungle, and over here you have the savanna, and I believe this is dark forest, so you have access to those three more difficult wood types. So this gives you early game access to a lot of things. So already we're doing pretty good here outside of the ocean. We don't have an easily accessible Badlands, though. The closest ones are all the way down here, about 3,000 blocks away, and about 5,000 blocks away. So early game, the commute to that sort of thing is going to be a real problem. Also, you have the snowy biomes, and they're way out here. So if you want your ice and your ice spikes and stuff like that, you're going to have to trek quite a distance. And other than this, we don't even have any cold ocean biomes aside from, up here and down here. So that's sort of the problem I see with this world gen. On top of that, it's not terribly interesting to look at, and you want that map to be something you want to look at. You want it to have some lines, some story that you're looking for. And of course, we'll get into some of the bigger details further down the line, but I think for right now, we can go ahead and give this one a miss. And most worlds, if you're clicking through here and you know what you're looking for, you'll be able to just kind of give them a miss as you're flying by. Yeah, this sort of thing, this is a perfect example. There is not much for variety of biomes right around the spawn area. Not nearly so much as you might want. And a lot of the more utilitarian biomes, they're farther away, and yes, late game, that's not going to be a problem, but yeah, it'd still be nicer if you had a greater variety by spawn. This is the sort of world that I would almost consider. There is a variety, and yes, it is further spread out, but this central portion of this kind of tells you what kind of game you're going to be playing. Multiplayer, this is likely to be, a bunch of people, each taking a couple of individual islands. Maybe your mycelium islands could be your shopping district or your gaming district, like it is on Season 3 of Bunch of Squares. Go watch that now. But we also have a couple of interesting features. Over here we have this snow-locked forest, which could create some really interesting building opportunities here. Sort of a Narnia thing going on is what I'm picturing here. Maybe some Narnia-inspired builds with the snow encroaching. That's kind of cool. This doesn't really speak to me, but maybe it will to you. And you can see right up here, there is the seed for it. So if you want to try out any of these worlds, you can just go ahead and try that out. And that's the really cool thing about this site, this biome finder. But most of these, yeah, you're seeing I'm clicking through them very fast, because once it gets down to 0, if I'm just seeing that same sort of hodgepodge of not very interesting biomes that close, or nothing that really speaks to me on that level, I'm going to keep flying here, and yeah, I'm going to let you know the second I find, okay, now this is another interesting one. Okay, there's a lot of ocean. There might be, arguably, too much ocean, but this is another one where just the layout kind of tells you what sort of game this is going to be. You have your resources, you have your snow here, you have a little bit of jungle, and none of these are too far off of spawn. You have an icy biome, that's good if you're needing snow or if you're needing ice. You've got dark oak forests in a couple of places here. This is not a bad setup here. I'm not sure exactly what I'd do with this. You got the mycelium right there, that's not bad, that's not bad. It is about 2,000 off though. It looks much closer than it is. So you need to keep that in mind, that this is a bit of a scale. And obviously, like I've said, late game, everyone has Elytra. It's not going to matter that much. But that is something to consider when you're starting off. You want to give yourself a strong start, because a lot of times you'll wind up building your base in one of those starting chunks or near to the starting chunks. So you want to have a world that really speaks to you from the get-go, and this is a good way of finding that. Now, this world is an example of something that gives you a unique opportunity, maybe, but it isn't necessarily your best choice. Now, you want to kind of decide what you're doing with the world, obviously, before you start looking. And if you're doing multiplayer, like I am, and just straight up, these are world seeds that I'm considering for inclusion in a future season of Bunch of Squares, this is the sort of thing that I might consider. We have all of these mycelium islands in a very closely condensed package, whatever. And they all seem like this central ocean here could be a really interesting setup for a season if people wanted to claim just these mushroom islands and essentially live in peaceful mode for a while. This would be a good way of doing it. And I think I might actually just save this seed real quick because this is something cool. This is definitely one that I'll want to look into. And yes, this isn't very close to 0-0. You're going to have to go a ways out. But, you know, if you're setting up the world for people and you can change that spawn point, changing it to maybe one of those central islands or something, you could lead to some very interesting gameplay off of that alone. I think that could be really cool. You guys will have to tell me what you think of this seed in the comments down below. I'm still looking. Now, this is the sort of world that I think I would try to avoid even if there was a decent dispersal of biomes right here in the middle because of this. And this is kind of a problem with Minecraft World Gen that I've found personally. The savanna and desert biomes, because of the way they've mapped this, they kind of tend to stack up and multiply a lot. So this section, taking up about a third of the playable space of this entire 10,000 block area of the world, that is a little bit excessive. And it'll start to feel really samey and repetitive as you're walking through it. Even if everybody decides to build, you know, somewhere different, if this is a lot of the world that you're looking at, you're kind of probably going to want to move on. And this is the same sort of thing where it's like the entire central portion is desert and savanna, and that doesn't make for very entertaining. Simply commuting is going to be boring, is what I'm saying here. Now here's a map where I think there are multiple points of interest, and I think this is a really good seed. I think we'll check this one out. Basically what we have here is this central lake that kind of, I believe we would all spawn fairly near to here, so there's kind of a nice nexus for this lake being sort of a focal location. We have access to jungle, we have access to dark forest, and we have access to acacia via the savanna. We also have a nearby swamp, or pieces of swamps, which is really useful for early game slime before people have slime farms. We have not one but two badlands, which aren't far away. And within what I would call a reasonable distance, we have 4 separate mushroom fields, which, that's phenomenal. We have a cold biome, we have an ice spikes biome right here, we do have some more ice down here. We have a broad variety of different biomes, and a lot of these are smaller. Now, I love smaller biomes. That's fantastic, because that gives you more options of your surroundings, or building across biomes. So that's always really, really cool. There's just a lot of fun stuff happening in here, honestly. I think this is a really cool thing. Also, this portion of the ocean here gives you access to a lot more as far as exploration is concerned, and if you come out this side of the lake, there are ways that you could just access all sorts of the world out this way. So I think the next step here, now that we have a seed that we want to look at, we actually jump into the game and try it out. Okay, so what we've done, we've plugged the seed in, we're just going to see where we drop, and basically at this point, you just need to see if the world is speaking to you. If there are things that you want to build looking at this world immediately, then you're golden. That was my deal with Season 3. I immediately knew what I wanted to build in a lot of that area. And I've built a lot of it at this point. Some things have changed, some things have stayed the same from my original plans. But really, if you have sort of that spark just looking at something where you're that hyped about just this part of the world, then that is a good sign that you have done something right. Okay, so, alright, so I've flown back up into the air directly from this point. So right away, you can kind of see that there's sort of a fun little peninsula here and a river that could be cleared out to go further back. So you have plenty of building opportunities right in this space. You also have some wooded hills over here that look kind of cool, and a mountain range not too far off. And out here we have the big lake that I pointed to as a central location. Okay, now this sort of thing right here always kind of speaks to me from a building perspective. What can you do with this bay in here. There's a hidden cave. Can you do things with this? Oh, okay. Yep, that's cool. That is very, very cool. There are ways that you could utilize that for sure. All sorts of building things popping into my mind right away. Maybe this is like, an evil villain's secret lair. Already, this is looking pretty good. There's plenty of opportunities to use the natural terrain to your benefit already flying around this world. So, that's looking pretty good. If we go out into the ocean/lake here, though, let's see what we're kind of running up against. Is this the sort of thing where it's something where you can see across the lake? It doesn't look to be so, but down here we can see that we have a naturally generating nether portal thing, pieces of it, ruin, I suppose. Yeah, the original mountain is kind of jumping out at me. We've got a flower forest here, though. That's good. That's good. Easy access to dyes right on the lake. And this would be an interesting place to build, like, maybe a flower factory of some sort, or just some giant flowers and bases in those giant flowers. That could be really, really cool. So, yeah, this is the sort of thing that you'll want to consider as you're flying around. You'll also want to look for any villages. If you see villages nearby, that's always good. One thing I would encourage you not to do as you're doing this sort of fly around, don't look for treasure. Don't look for your, hidden temples and things like that. You should kind of keep an eye out for it and remember it if you do want to choose this world, but most of the time you're going to want to save that sort of exploration for later. Unless you're doing a speedrun or something, in which case, more power to you, but I'm not interested in that. I'm a builder. I want to build things and I want to play the game and enjoy it for just that. Okay, so what I'm getting is I'm looping around the lake now and coming back this other direction. This lake is not as big as I first thought it was after I dropped into the world, so I think this is actually a really good spawn. This is not a bad seed at all. This is not a bad seed at all. And yeah, basically, that's all I wanted to do, is kind of talk through the process a little bit. I think that's really all that I have to say on it. It's a pretty simple idea, but a lot of people don't put that sort of thought and effort into it. And I think it really enhances your experience of the world if you do put that little bit of extra thought and planning into what you want to be doing with it, where you want to go, what do you want your base to look like, what biome are you looking for, and how do you make sure you access the materials you need for the base you want to build. Those are all considerations that you can start before you even jump in and play the game. So, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. This is just my process. Feel free to tell me what your process is, because, I'm always open to new suggestions, always open to new ideas. And I know this is a little bit of a weird video, but if you enjoy it, feel free to leave a comment and a like. I personally prefer comments because I actually get to engage with those. And that is always kind of fun for me to see what you guys think about these videos. So, until next time, this has been this time, that will be that time, and I have just run out of time. So I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!